Right, before we start with this video, I know I made a terrible mistake. I tried to trim my beard at 4mm, but instead I ended up using 1/4 of a millimeter and ended up looking like this. So I kind of think it's a mistake. I kind of feel naked here, but yeah, whatever. Let's start with the video. Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Ignace Aleya from ToleratedCinematics.com, and today it's Filmmaking Friday. I will be talking about a brand new camera I got in my arsenal. I got it right here, the Panasonic GH5, and why I like it and why you might want it. I won't go over all the specs, I'm just going over my findings and my personal opinion. First of all, you may know that I'm a long-term Panasonic shooter. I have the GH4, the GH5, and now the new GH5s. At first I didn't see the GH5s as a replacement for my GH5, but rather like a new tool in my arsenal. But after testing it, my opinion quickly changed actually. The sell point of the new GH5 was particularly the low light performance, but I think its potential reaches much higher. The new Panasonic GH5 actually is very similar to the GH5. It's exactly the same body as you can see right here, but with a few minor visual upgrades. A somewhat tuned body, which I personally really love. It looks very, very classy, and it just gives that premium look. This newly designed camera is definitely designed for professional and videographers. My camera also came with the accessory for the XLR extension, which I love to plug in my high-end microphone from aperture in immediately into my camera, which is really handy for making these tutorials, and I just plug and play. The strong suit of the new Panasonic GH5 is of course its low light capabilities. One of the biggest problems with the other GH cameras, they are amazing cameras, but when it comes to low light, not so good. So they did a new update. The new GH5s has a 10.2 megapixel sensor, which might sound bad because it's less than the GH5. For videography, it's actually a lot better. It has half the resolution of the GH5. The GH5 had a 20.2 megapixel sensor, but because of this change, it makes the GH5s a lot better in low light. It has a 10.2 megapixel high sensitivity sensor with a multi-aspect and dual native ISO 400 and 2500 with a range from 160 to 51,200 with an extendable ISO from 80 to 200 4800, which just means that the quality gets better starting from a particular higher ISO, and this just makes this a low light beast. For example, 1600 ISO would be less quality than if you would choose for 2500 ISO, which is actually higher in value, but it would get a cleaner image because that's a resetted ISO value for the GH5s. I have been varying my ISO between 6400 and 25600 in these shots that you see right now, and you can barely see any noise, and I didn't do anything in post. The noise only start to introduce at 51,200, but that's kind of understandable, and the footage is still very usable if you apply a good noise reduction filter. So I was so shocked when I saw the footage for the first time on my computer. When I saw it on the LCD, of course it's kind of logical that it would look good there because it's a smaller LCD, but once I brought it on my 4K monitor and just saw a very nice and clean image, I was completely blown away with the kind of low light performance this camera has, and this is something that I have been missing in the GH5 line. And I have been testing with the Sony A7s, and I also tried to work with that. In my opinion, it just gets really close to that performance. The videos that you'll also see are actually much darker in real life and are actually clearer on the image you see right now. So in real life it was completely dark, and here you just see an amazing cinematic shot. The only downside on the new GH5s is actually the loss of the in-camera stabilization, which I really loved on the GH5. Especially when you're going for a handheld shooting, or if you're using a lens without image stabilization inside the lens itself. The in-body stabilizer really helped out a lot, and unfortunately this isn't possible with the GH5s because they had to give up that feature in order to increase the low light performance here. It's actually not as terrible as I make it seem. If you are using the Panasonic lenses with the image stabilization within the lens, the stability of your shot is still going to be pretty amazing, but if you like to shoot with an adapter and different lenses without image stabilization inside, my example is for example the Sigma 18-35 f1.8 with the Canon Metabones adapter. One of my most favorite setups wouldn't be the ideal choice if you're going for a handheld shot with the GH5s. So then I would go for my GH5. Before we continue this video, I would like to present you our website designed for filmmakers and video editors to improve their workflow. We offer templates, presets, high quality pre-made packs, soundscapes, essential graphics, and much more. If you don't have time to create something of your own, or you just want to speed up your workflow, definitely check out our website with the link in the description below. But if you have stabilized lenses, there is not really much to be worried about. The frame rate is also improved, where the GH5 can shoot up to 180 FPS, which is already pretty amazing on its own. The new GH5s can shoot up to 240 FPS, which means on a 24 FPS timeline, you can actually slow down your footage up to 10 times, which is absolutely amazing. I love slow motion, I'm addicted to slow motion. It makes everything so freaking cinematic and powerful, and immediately makes a boring scene dope. The GH5s also comes equipped with the Vlog-S, which is an optional upgrade on the GH5, which I didn't actually get because you had to pay extra to get that feature, and I actually had enough with the profiles that came within the GH5, but now it comes pre-installed on the GH5s, and I gave it a try. The performance of the log is really awesome, and if you love to shoot log, but you kind of had this issue where you were shooting and you didn't really see what your shot was going to look like afterwards because everything was so flat, because log actually gets your footage, turns your footage flat, so afterwards you could grade it as much as you want and get as much information out there as possible, but it was really hard for me to shoot log on the display without actually seeing how my footage would look eventually. And that's actually one of the reasons I stayed away from log formats, because I just couldn't see how my image would look, and I wanted to see how it was gonna look inside of my camera body. And now they actually made an option where you can use a lid on top of your log temporarily to just preview your video on your GH5s. So while you're filming, you would actually see a Rec 709 image, and then once you import it on your computer, you will get the Vlog flat profile, which is really cool for grading then, but at least you get to see what you're filming inside of your camera body, and you can even import your own custom LUTs if you have a LUT lying around and you immediately want to see how it's going to look like with the final LUT and everything. You can import that on your GH5 and use it as a kind of filter to just see it on the preview monitor, but it's not going to record onto the file itself. I don't know if this is kind of logical or not, but this is actually a really cool feature. I also really love the color of the GH line. You can see that these skin tones just look so amazing. In my opinion, these are the best skin tones out there, but this is of course just a personal opinion. And then lastly, another benefit is that because everything kind of looks the same, all the accessories are actually also going to be able to be used on the GH5s if you come from the GH4 or the GH5. You can use the same battery, which is kind of amazing that you don't have to get all the new accessories for this camera if you have a previous model lying around. Alright, so that's my kind of opinion on the new GH5s. I think it's an amazing camera. I will still be using my GH5 for sure, especially for the image stabilization inside the body. So if I want like a very smooth shots, I would go for a GH5 shot, but if I take my camera outside and it's kind of nightfall or it's a low light condition, I would definitely opt for the GH5s without a doubt. It's so much better in low light. I knew the sell point of this new camera was the low light performance, but once I was able to test it on my own, I was just simply blown away. It's so much more than what I expected. So yeah, that's my personal opinion. I didn't get paid to say any of this. Alright, if you're interested in this camera, I will put some links in the description where you can go ahead and check everything out. I also have a link in the description where you will see all the gear that I am using. If you're interested in that, you can go over all the equipment for my studio right now and what I like to use on shoots. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give this video a like. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel for more, and definitely check out our website. If you're a filmmaker or a motion graphics artist, we have a bunch to offer for you, and if you buy something from our website, it helps to support the channel. Hope to see you in the next one, and goodbye.